Some crimes are so cold, so calculated, that they leave an entire nation questioning how a parent could ever harm their own child. This case is one of them. A story of manipulation, a story of control, a story of a man who used children as financial assets and destroyed 6 innocent lives in a horrific plot that he believed would make him a hero. This is the story of Michael Mick Philpott. Michael Philpott was born on 24 May 1956 in Derby, England. From the outside, his early life appeared ordinary, but behind closed doors, a disturbing personality was already forming. As a teenager, Philpott was controlling, jealous, and violent, traits that would only grow darker as he became an adult. But no one could predict just how far he would go. By the time he reached adulthood, Philpott had developed a pattern that would follow him for decades. Target young, vulnerable girls, win them over with charm, then isolate, control, and dominate them. Not for love, not for companionship, but for power, and soon for money. At 19, Philpott began a relationship with 15-year-old Kim Hill. He showered her with attention at first, gaining her trust. But within months, his mask slipped. Kim described a violent and unpredictable man. He controlled what she wore, who she spoke to, where she went. He demanded total obedience. His temper was explosive. If Kim did not satisfy him, the punishment was immediate. In public, he humiliated her. In private, he beat her. The violence was relentless. He once smashed a pool cue across her face because she looked at another man in a pub. Another time, he broke her arm and shattered her kneecap with a hammer. All because she paid attention to a baby instead of him. The abuse rapidly escalated. Philpott shot Kim in the groin with a crossbow because he claimed her dress was too short. He didn't just want control. He wanted dominance. Kim was still a schoolgirl, forced to lie to teachers about her bruises. In 1978, Kim finally tried to escape. She attempted to end the relationship while Philpott was serving in the army. But Philpott did not accept rejection. He went absent without leave, tracked her down, and broke into the home where she was sleeping. What happened next shocked even seasoned detectives. Philpott stabbed Kim 27 times while she slept in her bed. When her mother rushed in to save her daughter, he stabbed her 11 times too. Kim, barely conscious, crawled to a phone to call for help. Her mother lay bleeding on the floor. When police arrived, Philpott stood calmly at the top of the stairs holding the knife. His chilling words were, "I wouldn't bother. She's a goner. I did a good job on her." Kim and her mother survived only because neighbors heard the screams. Philpott was sentenced to 7.5 years, but he served just a little over 3. 3 years for nearly killing 2 people. 3 years for a crime that should have kept him behind bars for decades. His early release would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. After prison, Philpott married Pamela Lomax. They had 3 children together. But the violence didn't stop. Pamela endured years of fear and control. She eventually found the courage to escape him. But Philpott always managed to find his next victim. In 1993, at 37 years old, Philpott began a relationship with another teenager, 14-year-old Heather Kehoe. She was still a child, but Philpott drew her in with charm and manipulation. At 16, she left her family and moved in with him. They had 2 sons. Philpott's reaction to their births revealed his mindset. He was angry they weren't girls. Why? Because girls were easier to control. Heather later said that Philpott treated her like a prisoner. She was beaten regularly, isolated from friends and family, locked outside in the cold as punishment. He encouraged his older sons to hit her when she upset him. He held a knife to her throat when she attempted to leave. Eventually, Heather escaped by climbing over a fence with her children. A long custody battle followed. Against all odds, she won custody back. Another woman broken. Another family traumatized. And still, no one stopped him. In 2000, Philpott met his next target, 19-year-old Mered Duffy, a young woman who had already suffered abuse in a previous relationship. To her, Mick seemed like a rescuer, someone who understood her pain. She moved in with him shortly after they met. A tactic Philpott used often. Move fast, gain control. In 2001, Mered and Philpott had a daughter together, Jade. But this was not the beginning of a happy family. It was the beginning of a system built on Philpott's manipulation. Soon after, Philpott brought another young woman into the home, 16-year-old single mother Lisa Willis. He began a relationship with her and moved her in as his mistress. Mirette and Lisa lived together with Philpott, raising children, working. While he stayed unemployed, both women handed over their wages and benefits to him. Philpott married Mirette in 2003. Lisa was her bridesmaid. What looked like a strange family arrangement was, in reality, a carefully controlled environment. Philpott was at the top. The two women existed to serve him. And the children? They were income. The more children he had under his roof, the more welfare money he controlled. By this point, Philpott was known to local authorities, known to neighbors, known to social services. Yet each time he slipped through the cracks. He didn't want to work. He wanted the government to fund his lifestyle. He applied for larger council houses, demanded more space because of the number of children. He publicly complained about the system not giving him enough. He wasn't ashamed of living off taxpayers. He was proud of it, and the attention he received from being labeled Britain's biggest scrounger. He enjoyed it. Philpott began putting himself on TV. He appeared on the talk show The Jeremy Kyle Show, arguing he deserved benefits. He claimed he couldn't find work because employers judged his criminal past and media attention. He presented himself as a victim. But those who spent time with him saw the truth. In 2007, he was featured in a documentary with MP Ann Widdecombe. She challenged his lifestyle and helped find him job opportunities. He rejected every single one. He refused to work. He preferred controlling others and collecting benefits. Ann Widdecombe later said she saw a man who degraded women, took pleasure in manipulation, and treated his children like possessions, not people. Inside the home, the abuse intensified. Philpott monitored movements. Lisa's escape shattered Philpott's control. He felt humiliated, exposed, and worst of all, powerless. He wanted Lisa back under his rule, and if he couldn't control her, he would destroy her. Philpott began plotting a plan that he believed would give him everything he wanted, a plan that would make him look like a hero, a plan that would win sympathy, custody, a bigger home, and more financial support. It was a plan built on evil, a plan that would take the lives of 6 innocent children. Philpott decided to stage a house fire, not to hurt the children. In his mind, they were never supposed to die. The plan was sickening. He would start the fire at night, wake the neighborhood, pretend to try rescuing his children, and blame Lisa for the attack. Married and family friend Paul Mosley agreed to help. Philpott convinced them this was the only way to get the children back, and the money that came with them. He rehearsed the story. He prepared his heroic father act. Everything was about sympathy and public image. But there was one thing Philpott never considered. Fires don't follow plans. In the early hours of 11 May 2012, at 4 a.m. the attack began. Petrol was poured into a container. Mirette handed Philpott the clothes he would wear. Paul Mosley helped prepare the scene. Petrol was then poured through the letterbox of the Philpott family home on Victory Road. A match was lit. The explosion of flames was immediate. Fire raced through the hallway, the stairs, the only exit for the children, and became an inferno within seconds. The temperature in the upstairs rooms reached over 500 degrees. Smoke filled the air. The children were trapped. Inside were Jada 10, John 9, Jack 7, Jesse 6, Jaden 5, and Dwayne 13, all asleep, all unaware. No warning, no chance to escape. Neighbors awoke to screams. Philpott was outside shouting for help, acting frantic, banging on the windows, but he never went inside. Brave neighbors tried to break in. They smashed windows. They risked their lives. They believed Philpott was a desperate father trying to save his kids. Truth is chilling. He made no real attempt to rescue them. The community of Derby was devastated. People gathered outside the burned house. Toys, flowers, and tributes lined the street. The country mourned. Everyone believed the same story. A family destroyed by an arson attack. A grieving father who had lost everything. Money poured in. Strangers donated to funeral costs. A neighbor organized a charity collection for Philpott. Support flooded the family. The media delivered sympathy. Philpott stood in front of cameras, soaking up the attention. But while the world saw a grieving parent, police saw something else. His behavior didn't match his situation. At the press conference, Philpott thanked the public and spoke calmly about Dwayne's organs being donated to save lives. But there were no tears, no cracks, no pain in his voice. Detectives noticed he performed rather than felt grief. He seemed energized by the cameras. He liked being the center of attention. He flirted with a police family liaison officer. He placed another in a playful headlock when they visited the mortuary. This wasn't a broken father. This was a man enjoying the spotlight. Behind the scenes, detectives from the arson task force were already examining the scene. Within hours, they suspected the fire came from inside, not outside on the home. Within days, suspicion shifted to Philpott. Forensics discovered that petrol had been used to start the blaze. Traces of petrol were found on clothing belonging to Philpott, Mayred, and Paul Mosley. Police executed a plan. They placed Philpott, Mayred, and their surviving son in a hotel for protection. In reality, the room was bugged. What police recorded was shocking. Philpott rehearsed the story. He coached Mayred on what to say. He complained that the media wasn't giving him enough attention. They even discussed sexual acts in the hotel room shortly after their children died, including Mayred engaging in sexual activity with Mosley while Philpott watched. This was not grief. This was depravity. On tape, Philpott was heard saying, "It's my fault. We lost our children. It's my fault." He immediately tried to twist his words, coaching Mayred to stick to the plan. But police had what they needed. The mask had slipped. On 28 May, the court heard about Philpott's abusive past, the way he treated women like property, how he lived off the welfare system and refused to work, how he manipulated everyone around him. The evidence was overwhelming. On 2 April 2013, the verdict was reached. All three were found guilty of manslaughter. The judge called Philpott a disturbingly dangerous man with no moral compass. Philpott was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 15 years. Mayred and Mosley received 17 years each, serving a minimum of 812. Many felt the sentences were too lenient for the loss of 6 young lives, but at least justice was served. Mayred was released in 2020 on license and given a new identity. Mosley was released in 2021, recalled for breaking rules, then released again in 2023. Philpott remains behind bars. The aftermath of this case shook the UK. It led to debates about the welfare system, safeguarding domestic abuse failures, and the warning signs that had been ignored for decades. Experts analyzed Philpott extensively. He was diagnosed with extreme narcissistic and psychopathic traits. He had no empathy, no remorse, no love for anyone but himself. He used children for money. He used women for control, and he destroyed anyone who tried to leave him. 6 children, Jade, John, Jack, Jesse, Jaden, and Dwayne, were the victims of that evil. They were innocent. They trusted their parents, and they paid the ultimate price. Some crimes fade over time. This isn't one of them. This case remains one of the darkest examples of how far manipulation, entitlement, and greed can go when left unchecked. Those children should have grown up. They should have lived full lives. Instead, their futures were stolen by the one person meant to protect them.